Hi, my name is Susanna Magenheimer, Random Artist 222. Kristen at Retro Cafe Art had just received these silicone molds and asked me if I could give them a go with the pouring medium that I love using. These molds are beautiful, beautiful designs. There's a cobblestone, there's like a brick, there's like a solid brick, and there's some wood and koi fish scales. And I just want to show you, there's a difference in all kinds of molds out there. This one is obviously the most flexible kind of mold, and the ones I love to use. These are also silicone molds, but don't get them confused with the hard molds that are out there that don't allow any air to get through, and you'll end up having to dig out your pouring medium. Why I love pouring medium, and like I said, all the things you'll see here are things that are sold at Retro Cafe Art. This is the 8-ounce bottle she sells. Why I love pouring medium, it allows me to have flexibility in the product once it's completed, and it's also self-leveling, which is one of the things I wanted to go through with you today, some of the techniques of using pouring medium. When you're using pouring medium on, say, these right here, if one's a little wobbly, it's not a big deal. But because it's self-leveling, it's going to level flat. So it's going to go to the flattest points on the mold itself. Like here, it molded very beautifully because it's laying completely flat. Over here, because it's a little bit raised, I had a little bit less here when it ended in the final settling, but enough so that I can still create my projects and nothing that would turn me away from this product. Let me show you this first before I get into these. So this is another mold that she carries. They're crosses, and I don't know if you can see them right here close up. Let me get this out of the way. But they're just beautifully detailed. And what I would do with those after creating this is gesso them or apply some alcohol ink and color them up. So this is one of her molds like I just showed you. And on this one, I would definitely use a needle nose bottle, which she sells, and has a way for me to get into each of these little holes because there's little pearls in these crosses. And you want to be able to get way deep into there. But because it's self-leveling, you have to give it a few minutes, even 10 minutes, and watch it level off. Like here, I poured this about 2 hours ago, and this takes about a good, I want to say 8 to 10 hours to dry because this is a really deep mold. This is almost a 1/4 inch, a little less than a 1/4 inch, but because it's a deeper mold and nothing flat, like for example, this koi one is super flat. This one takes like an hour to dry. I actually come back to these molds like every 15 minutes for the first hour because as it levels, you'll notice, for example, here, there's I'll use a toothpick so you can see, get really close on that, is a bare spot because it's leveling down into the center right now. That could also be a component of the type of surface you're working on. My desk has some heavy stuff on the edges, so I have a little bit of a bow on my desk. But I know like if I brought it over here, it's a flatter surface. So I need to be cognizant of that because I need to come back now and fill this. Now, what you might find when you come back 15 minutes later or even like I said, every 15 minutes for the first hour, or until you get used to this process, there'll be little air pockets that maybe develop, and don't be afraid of those. Your mold is still going to come out just fine. If it's an air pocket, then just stick your needle nose. Don't try to get too much into it because it's already settling up, but just get your needle nose over it and fill the holes. So in this case, I'm going to do that. This isn't an air pocket, but just pretend it is. And I'm just bringing it back to fill. And you can see it as you start doing this and you get used to it. And so I'm going to bring this in. And like I said, try not to get your nose into the first layer because that's already settling up, so you don't want to mess with that. But see, now it's all nice and even again. And I might come back in 15 minutes and just check up on that. But it's no big deal. And I'm cleaning this off by wiping it, and then with my needle nose in the paper towel so it doesn't shoot out at me, I just pop some air through that to make sure the nose is clear, cap it, and it's done. you don't have to worry about coming to this every 15 minutes. If you came back an hour later and saw the divots in this, no big deal. You would just fix it like I just showed you and let it re-dry. So I'm going to go ahead and put that aside. This one is self-leveling, like I said. So my desk bows out a little bit, so I would have set it up here and it would be fine. Because this is a silicone mold, it's very slick, obviously. And with pouring medium, it has a tendency to pool back. And the only way I can explain this is you got to try it. It's like, I can't think of any product out there that I can use as an example. Maybe I can just show you. So this is how I would apply it. I just take a thin line and I would bring it in. And yes, I'm missing points, but I'm going to come back over. I'm just going to do a little thin spot right here so I can show you this, what's going to happen. What happens is, as this starts to dry, it's going to wick in because of the slickness of this silicone mat. But like I said, if you come back and check it on it 10 minutes from now, and we'll leave it like that so you can see. But you can come back and just, correct it with the medium. And one thing I like to do with the medium too is I like to let it, can you catch? Yeah. I like to let it drip, and the reason I like to let it do that is because I like my pieces to look fragmented. And another thing you can do while this is wet is take any watercolor powder. In this case, I'm using Ken Oliver's, and I can open this hopefully without getting powder all over my, yeah. You can just tap, 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 tap. Okay, you don't want to use more than that. And then zhuzh it up. And in all reality, that's going to go into all the white spaces. That's just the way it works with the watercolor powders that I've found in my use. So I'm not going to worry about that too much, making sure it's all zhuzhed up so the color is all evenly distributed. One of the things I like about using the watercolor powders is, one, it doesn't dilute the pouring medium like a liquid tint would. So I'm going to do this really gently over here. Look how easy this is going to pull off. Okay. Very easy. And I'm going to put this on a piece of index card so you can see. I use a very faint watercolor because I wanted this to have kind of a dragonfly effect. And let me see if I can get that in there for you. And I got different values throughout the way I zhuzhed it up, which is good. That's what I wanted. And it's a matter of, if you want to put more watercolor powder to get it more intense color throughout it, it's up to you. There are many ways to treat pouring medium in terms of painting, gessoing, and products to color it up. So the world's your oyster on that one. Now let me come back to this so I can show you. On this one here, you can see where, let me get my trusty toothpick. Some of this has started to pull back, and it wasn't a function necessarily of me dripping it down. That's what's going to happen. You're going to get these little pocket things showing up, and all you're going to do is come back and that's a more pouring medium until you're happy with the way and the shape that it looks like. It will eventually stop wicking, and the more you use it, the more I'm finding it wicks less and less. So I think it's just the coating that's on the silicone molds. So let's talk about curing, and I'll show you also how to apply it onto these new silicone molds she sent me. So like I said, this is self-leveling, and this takes, because they are thicker, this takes a little bit longer to set up. But the one thing you want to be cognizant of when you apply your pouring medium on here is these guys have ridges, okay? So you want to make sure when you're, and let me see if I can get this in the camera. Let me just do it. Okay, so see how you can see shine all along this? So you can tell that the ridges have some of the pouring medium above it. That way when you pull it off, it's going to come off as one piece versus, let's just say I put the pouring medium in this little cell and I didn't make sure it went over enough so that it was level with this top line, then it's not going to pull off as one piece. Really easy to pull these off. You can just pull this back. See? And then you want to gently, always gently, whenever you're working with pouring medium, gently tease it back. Okay, now I pulled that back too fast, so you can see right here, there's a shine. See that shine? That means there's still pouring medium on that. So I'm going to gently pop that back, bring it out. I'm going to throw that away? No, because you can use that to do something else with. But let's put that aside for now. Okay, so curing. What you're seeing right now is it freshly pulled off after it's set up. Obviously this side is the flat side and this side has the indents. This is why I love this product. It is so flexible. You can wrap it around a bottle. Granted, I would need a bigger bottle or I'd cut back some of these cobblestones, but look at the cool effect that would be. Now, this is actually going to stick on for me, so I'm going to leave it like that. But when you're storing this stuff, and what I do is as soon as I get a mold, I create an impression so that I can have it kind of like a reference and I have a pile of them. And I gesso them because it's easier for me to store them that way. They're not going to really stick to each other. Now this is based on climate. If you're in a cool climate, I wouldn't be as worried about things sticking. You definitely don't want to leave them in a direct sunlight because you could end up with a melted pile of stuff. And it's not like it's going to re-liquefy, but it's just going to get sticky. Now this has been left in a shadowy area on my desk. I'm on a second floor. It does get warm up here, but as you can see, it just gently pulls off. But again, I wouldn't store them like this in this state. In this state of the clearness, I would just put them on, like I did here. I would put them on some cardstock, have a container that allows air into the container, and I would just layer them on top. And you can do it by, by theme or whatever you want to do. These are not anything that I would put through a die cut machine. What I would do is just cut with scissors. Pouring medium is like resin. It is a plastic. It's very hard for a die cut to get through this, especially when you're looking at something like this that's pretty thick. The thinner you can get it, you can try, but I have had not a lot of success with die cut machines and these guys. So one thing is they get stuck because of the pressure in the machine. They can get stuck between the plates. They come off, but it's just it's a trial to get them off. So I don't recommend it with die cut machines, but they're very easy to cut with scissors. So you could take whatever shape you want. You could even take a die cut, outline it, and then cut it with scissors if it's a basic shape. But anything more detailed than that, I don't do. So just so you can see too, that this is the brick, solid brick. And let me see if I can get a piece of paper here. And this is the outcome of the solid brick. Pretty cool. Okay. This one is the cobblestone. Or not the cobblestone, the textured brick. And I have that on the flat side. So I turn that way. Yeah. Very cool. The cobblestone you saw here is this one. And then you have this wood one. And I was able to get, and let me put this on here. This is the wood texture. Now, this one, these three come off easy peasy lemon squeezy, nothing to do. But these, because you can see they're slats, right? So that each of these little openings is where the pouring medium would come out a little bit because it self-levels. So you have to be very tedious as to how you pull this off. It doesn't always work the first time for me. I was able to get a couple of these, but I felt like I had to create like a lip so that I could start pulling it off. And as you can see, each little piece of wood, each of these lines is a single piece of wood. So I would use it with clay. I'd even use it with pouring medium, but just remember, it's going to take a little bit more patience to tease it out of its unit. And if you find any pieces in afterwards, just take a toothpick, run it through, and chase it out. And they come off really easy, so that's not a big deal to me. Okay, so now curing. This guy I did just now, and you can see that it's white, right? That's because the pouring medium hasn't cured all the way through, and this is a thick, and I shouldn't say thick, it's a couple of millimeters, but it's thick enough so that it will take a few days for this to turn into this, a nice clear piece. Can you see that? Yeah, beautiful, nice and clear. But you can see here that I can obviously wrap this around, right, while it's in this white state. But I can also take this little piece, and I actually made a bigger piece here, and I can also wrap that around. It's not as flexible as when you first pull it off, but it's still totally flexible. So this is another mold that Retro Cafe Art sells, and I just wanted to show you with the leaf how beautiful the watercolor effect is. Just different hues running through. And it's, again, the way you just apply the watercolor powder. You know, I just did a little, and it just infused into the rest of the leaves. So I just wanted to let you see that that's a beautiful outcome of this product. Okay, so I went ahead and had some lunch and came back to this, and I finally got this effect that I wanted to show you guys. This is what I was talking about. If I can get it closer, let me get the camera down there. That hole is because of the leveling, the self-leveling properties of the pouring medium, and nothing to fret about here. It's been like, what, an hour. So all I'm going to do is come in here, fill that hole, see that? And then I'm just going to level it off a little bit. Again, trying not to disturb the underlayer, which has solidified enough that it's not going to create any kind of I just need to focus on this for a minute. It's not going to cause any irregularities, is what I'm trying to say. Just don't mush your needle nose back into the thing. So that's that part. I wanted to make sure I came back to that to show you. And then now what I want to do is introduce these guys. They're ice resin opals, also available at Retro Cafe Art. And aren't they just the most dreamiest flakes you've ever saw? They're opalescent, which is what I love about them. And I'm just going to use this mold that I used earlier to show you on the leaves. This is also available there. What you just do with embedding things in pouring medium, there's two thought processes here. I'm just going to go ahead and do this really quick. Obviously, this still has to self-level. You can push the needle nose down while it's in this kind of liquefied state to try to avoid some of those little air pockets that develop through the leveling. But basically, I'm just filling this one to the brim. And the needle nose is really good because it allows you to get into all those little nooks and cranny areas. It is a little bit of a patience game, obviously, because you have to wait for it to set up. But the beauty of it is you get a very flexible multi-use product out of it. Okay, so now I have my pouring medium. It's in the liquid state. There is no rush here. So what I would do is I think I'm going to take the sand opal and just put some on my toothpick and just tap it. Pick up a little more. Let's make this a happy flower, as Bob Ross would say. The reason I'm doing it with a toothpick is I just don't want gobs of glitter. And it's not really glitter, it's like shavings to go just in one spot. This way I get some control. Now, this will be when you flip it and it cures and it turns into that transparency. You'll be able to see that. But if you wanted to have it like at the bottom, then just while you're here, mush it down into crevices and it'll go down. You could put microbeads, any little tiny light embellishment will work just fine. So you could take this like I'm doing right now and push it down to the bottom of the mold and then come back and add some more of the flakes so that you have maybe some at the bottom, some at the top. So just so you know too, that's silver opal, this is sand opal, and this is cobalt opal. Very gorgeous, must-have products for me in my craft room. So there you go. So what I did is Retro Cafe Art sells these wonderful little bottles in different sizes, and I just fell in love with them. And what I did was I took the koi scales, I have tons of them, and I'm not gonna, bother having you guys watch me watch glue dry, but I applied it to here, and you might go, well, how do you do that? Well, first of all, you want to gesso the bottle, okay, because you want to give the glue something to attach to. It will attach to the glass, but it's tedious to hold and to make sure that it completely seals up. So you can do it with a glass, and I would do it with something that would dry clear. I used for this the Finnabar Art Basics 3D matte gel. It worked beautifully for me. And what I did was I basically gessoed with the Art Basics, and then I added the koi scale. And I glue the flat side, obviously. And then I put it on here. I'm not worried about any kind of messy things because I'm going to come back over this again, either with white gesso, but in this case with black gesso. And what I did is I took those thick rubber bands that you get from the grocery store, and I just wrapped it around. And I didn't double wrap it, but what I did is I pulled it, and then I stapled it so that it became its own, it was kind of like stapled to fit. And I put like 2 big rubber bands, and it held it together. There were a couple of little tiny pieces that were sticking out, and I just used some touch-up glue, any glue that you have that has like well, actually you can just use a toothpick, grab some of the 3D matte glue, put it back under this, hold it down for a minute, and it'll stick on, and you won't have any gaps. So if you can see, there's no gaps on that. So now what I'm going to do is come back, and I'm going to now brush this with some heavy gesso from Art Basics. Again, all this available at Retro Cafe Arts. And while Retro Cafe Art supplied me with the silicone mats, the blue and the pink, I bought these other products. I've bought myself because I do believe in their efficiency. Okay, so let me grab a brush, and I'm going to paint this, and then I'll come right back. Okay, so I stepped away for about a half an hour to go ahead and paint this with black gesso, but I wanted to show you really quick how this is a half an hour later, and you can see it's a lot more even. There's no pockets, but even if one developed within another hour or so, I could still go back, as long as I'm not dipping it into the original layer, and just keep filling it up till I'm happy with it. And then you can see here how the watercolor zhuzhed up and went throughout the paste or the medium. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've used the black gesso over the whole entire bottle. And this is the koi scales that I created using this mat that, again, is all available at Retro Cafe Art. And now I'm going to apply Art Alchemy, again, Prima, Finnabar, sells these waxes. This one's Firebird, this one's Vintage Gold. Either one against black will look amazing, but since these are koi scales, I'm going to go ahead first and start with this. Basically, it looks like that. Look how cool that looks. And I'm just going to take a little bit of my finger, nothing more than that, and then just start highlighting the koi scales. As with all arty things, it's up to you how much, how dark, how deep, how much color you want. In terms of highlighting the koi scales. But look how beautiful that's coming out. And I'm going with a very light touch. Where I wanted a little bit more, I go a little heavier, but just to get the edges of the koi scales lit up, just a very light touch. And you can always practice before you apply it to something, just so that you get the gist of how this wax works. Kind of makes me think about fall, Halloween time, all that stuff that goes with it. But I'm loving this shade of... And these waxes too, you can mix and match, so go as happy as you want. And if it goes a little bit outside on the bottle, no big deal. It actually, to me, adds to the artsiness of it. So let me see if I can get that in there for you. Now, if you didn't like this, you could use a handy wipe, or just a little damp paper towel. And you can take some of that right off. See? Came right off. So that's my little product or showcase for today. And this is again using the Liquitex Pouring Medium. He's the star of the show. Lots of things that can be done with it. And as I said, Retro Cafe Art just got these into her store, including the koi scales, the crosses. I strongly recommend her store. Great quality, great customer service. Kristen's a wonderful person and a talent on her own. She sells her own product line as well there. So thank you very much. Remember to subscribe and like, and have a great day.